11:27 on a Saturday night. A living room camera catches a young woman crossing the frame. She moves fast and quiet toward the front door. Her phone screen flashes in the dark, a message or a call. The sender does not show a name. She does not say goodbye. She steps outside. A blue Honda Accord is waiting at the curb. Minutes later, she posts to her Snapchat story. She is in the back seat now, laughing, singing along to a song she does not quite know. The camera loves her. She has no idea where this car is going. Her mother is still awake down the hall. A tracking app has just pinged. It shows a small dot leaving the house, drifting northwest into the dark. That dot is the last honest thing the phone will ever tell her. By sunrise, a stranger at a lake will make a call that no one should ever have to make. And the young woman in the back seat, the one her family said knew no strangers, will already be gone. Two questions will shadow everything that follows. Who was on the other end of that flashing screen? And why did a girl who trusted everyone climb into that car and never climb back out? This is the case of Melody Hoffman. Marion, Iowa, Saturday, February 17th, 2024. It had been a slow, easy day. Megan and her daughter left the house in the afternoon for groceries. They grabbed tacos. They ate dinner out. Later, they climbed into Megan's bed and put on a movie, the way they had done 100 times before. When the film ended just after 11, Megan figured that was the night. Her daughter had other plans. The family used the Life 360 app the way a lot of families do. It was a safety net, a way for a mother to glance at a screen and know her child was where she said she was. On this night, that same safety net becomes the record of a disappearance. At 11:27, the app sends Megan a notification. Melody has left the house. The living room camera shows her go. On the video, her phone lights up as she moves. One more message from a name that never appears. Megan is not impressed. She texts fast. "Are you kidding me right now?" "I'll be back," Melody writes. She will not be back. Megan keeps messaging, "Come home." She watches the dot instead. It heads northwest, toward Morgan Creek Park. Then it turns and comes back toward Marion. Around 1 in the morning, it settles at an apartment complex, only a few blocks from home. Close, almost safe, but look at the shape of the night. A girl who just texted "I'll be back" does not loop northwest through a park at midnight in February. She does not drift toward a lake town 30 minutes south. The route is wrong. It is the path of someone being driven, not someone finding her own way home. And outside, it is deep Iowa winter, the kind of cold that bites through a coat in seconds. Wherever Melody is, she is not dressed for where this is going. Then the location permissions go dark. They move the conversation to Snapchat. Megan tells her to turn the tracking back on. The replies come slow. "On my way. Almost there. Leave the door open for me." The words are longer than Melody usually bothers with. Fuller, smoother, something a careful reader might catch. In that moment, a worried mother does not. Investigators will read those same messages later, line by line, and the rhythm will bother them. The punctuation is careful in a way Melody's texts rarely were. To the people who piece this night back together, the cadence reads like a second set of hands on the keyboard. Someone steering a mother, one soft reply at a time, toward the words, "Leave the door open." Her requests to call go nowhere. The phone rings out. She sits with the door unlocked, waiting for a girl who is already somewhere she cannot follow. Melody never turns the tracking back on. Much later, Megan will reach a conclusion that no mother should have to reach. That final, tidy conversation was not with her daughter at all. It was with the person who took her. The last message from Melody's phone is not words. It is a machine. At 3:13 in the morning, Apple's automatic crash detection fires. Crash detection is not a person crying for help. It is a sensor. When an iPhone feels a sudden, violent force, it assumes a wreck, and on its own, it pushes out a location. No one has to touch it. No one has to want it sent. That is why the pin lands at 3:13 with no voice behind it. And it may be the one message from that entire night that no one could fake. Megan drives into the dark to find it. She reaches the on-ramp to Highway 100. The iPhone is there, face down in the cold. The screen is broken. The regular case is gone. Every scrap of recent activity has been wiped clean. A phone stripped of its history is not a phone that simply fell. It is a phone that someone worked on. Someone who knew what a screen could give away and took the time to take it back. She stands on the shoulder of a highway holding her daughter's phone. Her daughter is nowhere, and whoever cleaned that history knew exactly what they were doing. Sunday morning, Lily Lake, in Amana, about a half-hour south of Marion. Amy Robus is parked by the water, watching birds. A couple walks up to her, shaken. They have come across something in the grass. They are not even sure it is real. Amy gets out to look. Then she picks up her phone and dials.
I'm actually at Lily Lake in Amana, and it looks like a dead body here.
Okay, you're at the lily pond?
Yeah, right by where the picnic area, the pavilion is. The woman, and she's just wearing underwear.
Is she breathing?
It does not look like it.
Okay, so you said that she's on her stomach?
She is on her stomach, yes.
Does it look like she was in the water?
No.
Okay, and is there anything else around her?
No, but there are all kinds of marks on her back, like flashes.
Deputies from the Iowa County Sheriff's Office reach the lake. What they find, we will not linger on. She lies face down near the water. The marks on her wrists show she had been bound. The medical examiner will rule the cause of death as strangulation. Many of the other wounds, the record shows, came after she was already gone. Strangulation is a close crime. It is not done from across a room. It takes time, and it takes hands, and it puts the killer face to face with the person dying. The marks on her wrists say she was bound while it happened, controlled and aware. Whoever did this was near enough to feel it. That detail alone tells investigators they are not hunting a stranger who wandered onto a lakeshore. They are hunting someone who got close on purpose. The scene had been arranged to suggest one kind of crime. Her clothing was gone, set out to imply an assault. Yet the evidence shows no assault took place. That is the tell. The extra wounds were added after death, not driven by any urge, but painted onto the scene like a false story written on the ground. This is the difference between a crime of impulse and a crime of planning. Everything here points to planning, and the ground itself gives them the next clue. The grass around her is calm, undisturbed. None of the struggle written on her body happened at this lake. She was killed somewhere else, then carried here and set down for someone to find. Moving a person 30 minutes down a dark road is not panic. It is a decision made with time to spare. So, they go back to the phone. Megan had handed everything over, location data and all. Think about what that took. A mother, days into the worst grief of her life, sitting down to give investigators the last map of her daughter's movements. She does not know yet that the data will one day help put someone away for good. She only knows her girl is gone, and that the phone in the evidence bag is the closest thing left to her voice. And that data does not rest on one fragile thread. The Life 360 pings, the phone's own cell records, and a chain of traffic cameras all tell the same story, and the story matches at every turn. When three separate systems, built by different people for different reasons, place the same car in the same places at the same minutes, coincidence stops being an answer. This is how a case like this gets built. Not with one dramatic clue, but with a room full of investigators laying data over data until the overlaps stop looking like chance. Every ping is time-stamped. Every camera has a clock. Every clock agrees. By the time they are finished, the night has a spine, and it runs straight through one car. The line runs through Morgan Creek Park, late that Saturday. There, Melody's Apple Watch logged her heart rate, climbing, hard and fast, and then it logged nothing at all. The watch either stopped or was switched off. The Apple Watch is the coldest witness in this case. It does not care about alibis. It does not soften the truth to protect a friend. It simply recorded the moment there was nothing left to record. That park, investigators believe, is where she died. After that, her phone traveled back toward Marion, past her own street, before the long final drive south to the water. Now they need a name. It does not take long. Her first and only boyfriend, 20 years old, known to his friends as Ken, McKinley Luizma. They had met on an app and dated about 2 months. He ended it in December. Melody did not take it well, and it got worse when she learned the reason. He was going back to an ex, a woman named Nakia, because Nakia was pregnant. The two of them fought over Facebook. In one exchange, Melody threatened to call the police. For a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, it was an ordinary kind of heartbreak. A first boyfriend, a bad breakup, a rival who turned out to be pregnant. None of it should have cost her more than a few hard weeks and a lesson about who to trust. That is what makes what comes next so hard to hold. The stakes were so small. The price was everything. Then, days before her death, a message hit her phone from an unknown number. "Bitch, I hate you and your family ain't safe." She reported it to Marion police. The number was never traced. The sender was never named. Her mother, though, had no doubt who wrote it. There was one more thing waiting in the autopsy: a pregnancy hormone. Melody may have been newly pregnant herself. Whether she knew, whether she told a single soul, no one can say for certain. She had not even told her mother. McKinley starts with a lie. He tells Megan he had not seen Melody, that he always followed her rules and never spent time with her daughter alone. Then he tells detectives the same thing. Both are lies the evidence can break. The cameras give him up. A blue Honda Accord runs into Marion just after 11:20 that night. One traffic camera after another passes the car along, out to Morgan Creek, then north on Edgewood Road, back toward Melody's home, then south toward the lake. His own cell phone data walks the exact same route. His last stop before home is a Quick Star in Cedar Rapids. On the footage, he climbs out of the Honda and buys cigars. And here is a detail to hold on to. At that Quick Star, McKinley is not alone. Another man steps out of the car beside him, calm as anything, and buys cigars in the small hours of the morning after Morgan Creek Park. The camera catches his face. Investigators do not have his name yet. They will. By the time McKinley sits down with detectives, a search warrant for the Honda is already signed. He chose it, betting he could talk his way clear while his car stayed quiet down the hall. As he talks, officers are pulling that car apart. For close to an hour, he holds one line. He had not seen her than that weekend. He had nothing to do with any of it.
I can't tell, but we broke up in December, December 30th.
Okay. How was the breakup? Good, not good?
Yeah, it was good for me, but she didn't take it very well.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why? Why did you guys decide to break up?
Because my ex-girlfriend's pregnant, and I pretty much had more intention on focusing on the child and being a father, and she didn't like that. So
Sure.
So I broke up over the phone because her mom always say whenever we get into an argument, do it over the phone instead of being together.
Yeah.
So I pretty much was like, hey, I'm coming back, I'm going to go get you something. And then I just left, and I just called her and said, hey, I don't want to be with you.
Yeah. You talked to her, but did you not see her on Friday and Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. When do you think was the last time you saw her?
The last time I seen her was that one day I went to her house, and we hung up for a bit, and I left.
Then the questions turn. Detectives ask about a trip to Walmart, about a machete he bought that same weekend. He says it was for a camping trip. He admits, almost in the same breath, that he barely knows camping. He starts reaching for a reason.
And I'm not too familiar with camping or mudding, but forgive me, what would be the purpose of getting a machete for going camping?
I'd probably say protection. Because it's sort of like, hey, if I'm going camping in the middle of nowhere and I can't see nothing, I'm grabbing a machete.
Oh, okay. Okay, but you never wound up going camping?
No.
Okay. And you said the reason you didn't go camping was because of...
They changed their mind last minute.
Okay. Who's they?
The driver.
Okay. And you don't know who the driver
I don't
was?
know who the driver is.
Okay.
I wasn't involved in anything. I was actually where I said I was. I literally was down the street from where I was at.
Okay.
From Patty's house, exactly.
Right. Yeah, and unfortunately the case facts don't indicate that at all. And I get that this can be difficult to talk about, but again, it's not so much a matter of if this is the way it happened. We know how it happened. Wow. We know exactly how it happened, but what we don't know, McKinley, is why.
Watch how the detective works. He does not shout. He does not accuse. He lets McKinley fill the silence, then measures each answer against a fact he already holds. The machete for protection. The camping trip that never happened. The driver whose name McKinley cannot seem to produce. Each answer is a small tell, and the room is quietly running out of room. While he talks his way around one machete, the search team is finding several. A machete sits in the center console, its handle jutting up beside the driver's seat. Packaging for two more of the same size. a pocket knife with a serrated edge, a roll of duct tape, partly used, in the front compartment. Then they open the trunk. Inside a large plastic bag, the last hours of Melody Hoffman are laid out in evidence. A pink shirt, stained, black leggings she was known to wear, an Apple Watch band, marked the same dark way, gloves traced to a Walmart receipt that also lists more machetes, duct tape with strands of her hair still caught in it, the cover from her phone, and a length of paracord, thin climbing rope that investigators come to believe is the thing that ended her life. Paracord is not something you grab in a struggle. It is something you carry in on purpose. A ligature brought to a scene is a plan, not an accident. The gloves say the same thing in a different voice. You do not buy gloves and machetes on one receipt for a camping trip that never happens. You buy them to keep your hands off of what you already mean to do. But it is the duct tape that lands hardest. Tape from his car, wound with her hair. It is a thread you can follow from a trunk in a parking lot struck to a girl at a lake, and it does not care what story he tells in the room. While McKinley hunts for the right words about camping, that tape is already answering the only question that counts. She was in this car, she was bound, and he was there. And while McKinley builds a story about camping he never went on, back in Marion, the community is planning a vigil. Candles for a girl who volunteered at an animal shelter. A girl her family said had no fear and loved everyone. 2 rooms, the same grief-struck week, and only one man in either of them knows what actually happened to her. The detective stops circling. He tells McKinley plainly that the story does not touch a single fact they are holding. He tells him they already know how this happened. What they do not know, he says, is why. Then he gives him one clean chance to say something true.
Okay? When I sat here and I listened to what you said, I wanted so much for you to give me something that aligned with all of our other case facts, but it didn't. And so that's why I was asking those hard, difficult questions, because it's like, all right, maybe McKinley came in here and he's just a little bit upset and regretful about what he did, but I want to give you the opportunity to tell us what the real truth of this matter was. Okay? Because right now we can both agree that we have not talked about this yet. Okay?
The guy said if I want to be done with this, I can be done with this and I can leave, because this is just too much for me right now, man.
Okay. And that's completely up to you. If at some
If I
point,
gotta come back to you guys, I can, but this is just really too much for me right now.
okay. So what are you saying?
I just want to be done and just leave, like I said.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, if at some point, whether it's tonight, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, you're in a position where you've had a chance to think about a few things and you think, you know what, upon thinking of a few things, there's a few things that maybe I didn't get on the table that I would like to get on the table.
I'll let you know right
We're always gonna leave that door open for you, okay? We're always gonna be fair with you.
He gets up, he walks out. The detectives leave the door open behind him, the way they always do. They tell him they will be fair. They tell him the door stays open. And when McKinley finally walks back through it, he will not deny being there anymore. He will not claim he stayed home. He will do something colder. He will take the whole night and hand it to someone else. When McKinley is ready to talk again, he does not reach for the truth. He reaches for a story with someone else at the center of it. The someone else is a new friend, 18 years old, Dakota Van Patten. In McKinley's telling, the night started simple, casual plans, Dakota just tagging along. Then, he says, it turned. The way he lays it out, Dakota fixated on money. Melody had talked about buying him gifts, clothes, a new PlayStation 5, and Dakota, he claims, heard every word of it. McKinley says Dakota pulled him aside, whispering, then asked to speak with Melody alone. That, he claims, is when everything changed.
Because then I was like talking to her, I was like, hey, so what are you getting me from Amazon? She was telling me that she's getting me some clothes, and if I want, she can order me a new PlayStation 5. And then he was like, damn, you must have a lot of money to be spending on him like that. And then she was like, yes, because she loved me. So then he was like, well, can we just ride around for a bit? He just was whispering something to me. And I was like, what are you whispering? And he pretty much was just whispering something. And I was like, I don't know. And I'm like, so what are we doing? So then he was like, can I talk to you for a bit? I'm like, okay, talk. He was like, no, by yourself.
By his account, a gun comes out next. Dakota starts making demands. He wants Melody tied up. He talks about a ransom. McKinley says he refused, right up until the barrel found the side of his head.
He told me to get the duct tape and duct tape her hand. So at that point, I thought it was all a joke, you know. I thought it was literally all a joke. And he was like, just duct tape her hand, trust me. And then I was like, no, I'm not duct taping her hand. And then he took the gun and then he put it to the side of my head. And he was like, just do it. And then I just duct taped her hand, and then she was asking me what's going on, and I was like, I don't know.
In the same story, McKinley casts himself as a secret helper. He claims he left one location setting running so Megan might find her. He claims Dakota seized the phone and texted Megan under a fake contact name, buying time, telling a frightened mother her daughter was on the way home.
Because as he's hitting her, he stopped. She said, you know, my mom can see my location. And then when she said that, I remember her. She does have her location on. So when he told me to turn it off, I turned one location off, but I left the other one running, and he didn't know. I pretty much ran back to Marion. And
From where?
From Martin Creek Park.
Okay.
I went back to Marion, and I went closer to her house, so that way I can give her mom a clue, like her daughter is nearby. Because I turned the location on right back after. So then, when her mom was texting, and he was like, who's that texting? And it says, Big Fat Llama Drama. And he was like, who is that? And she said, that's my mom. And then he took the phone, and he started texting the mom, saying, she's on her way to open the door.
Right.
So, tell him like, yo, just stop, bro. Just let her go. Just let her go. She in the backseat crying and calling my name. I can't do nothing because he's sitting in the front seat with a gun. And he has the phone.
It is a tidy story. In it, McKinley is a hostage, a bystander, a man who tried and could not. He says he stood by the car at the lake and listened and could do nothing. He says that afterward he fell asleep and had nightmares. Detectives have one hard question for a man forced into murder at gunpoint. Why did he never call anyone? Not police, not family, not a single soul. Why drive home? Why stop for cigars? A man held at gunpoint runs to the first light he can find. McKinley drove past every one of them and went to bed, and the timeline cuts against him from another angle. If Dakota only spotted Melody's money by chance that night, why were the machetes already bought? Why were the gloves already bought? Why were the parks already searched? A robbery that turns deadly does not arrive with a shopping list prepared in advance. All of it was ready before Melody ever left her house. The gun story tries to explain one terrible night. It cannot explain the days of planning stacked behind it. Then the lab comes back, and it does not care about his story at all. The weapons from the Honda are tested for DNA and fingerprints. They light up for Dakota Van Patten. They do not light up for McKinley. On its face, that could help him. A defense could stand on it. But absence of DNA is not an alibi. It does not move him out of the driver's seat of the car that carried Melody to her death. It only confirms Dakota was hands-on, which no one was arguing about. Investigators go to where Dakota was staying. In the basement where he slept, they find more of the same climbing rope pulled from McKinley's trunk, and at the foot of his bed, a pair of eyeglasses. They belong to Melody. Down the hall, in his brother's room, more still, a machete under the bed, a locked box with a pistol holster and ammunition, a footlocker of knives. Dakota, 18 years old, is arrested and charged with her murder. The rope matters more than it first appears. The same climbing cord now sits in two places, a length of it in McKinley's trunk, more of it in the basement where Dakota slept. That is a physical thread running straight between the two of them, tying the man who says he was a hostage to the man he says held him. Hostages and their captors do not shop from the same coil of rope. And then the picture gets bigger and worse. Surveillance from a Cedar Rapids Walmart shows not one man, not two, three. McKinley, Dakota, and an 18-year-old named Logan Kimpton. 3 machetes across the counter, multiple pairs of gloves. 3 young men shopping for a murder under the fluorescent lights of a Saturday afternoon. Logan is the one who tells investigators what the other two will not. All three of them, he says, had planned to kill someone. When the moment came, he chickened out. His phone backs him up. It places him at his girlfriend's apartment, while Melody died at the park. Logan is charged with willful injury and with conspiracy to commit a forcible felony. He talked. It did not save him from the charge, but it lit up everything around it. A talking co-defendant is a dangerous thing for the men who stay silent. Logan's account handed investigators a frame to hang every piece of evidence on. The Walmart run, the machetes, the plan spoken out loud, in daylight, before any of it happened. Two of them said nothing. The third gave the state its story. McKinley's whole defense now hangs on a gun to the head, a gun that made him do it. Hold on to that gun, because when this reaches a courtroom, the state is going to show the jury exactly what it was. Both McKinley and Dakota plead not guilty. Both sit in the county jail. McKinley pushes for a speedy trial and gets one. It opens in November of 2024. A speedy trial is a gamble. It denies the state time to keep building, but it denies the defense that same time. McKinley bet the case against him was thin, that the doubt in a few wavering witnesses would be enough. He would learn, in a matter of days, how badly he had read his own evidence. He faces 3 counts: murder in the first degree, kidnapping in the first degree, conspiracy to commit a forcible felony. In Iowa, the first of those leaves a court no room to move. It carries one sentence, and one only: life in prison with no possibility of parole. There is no lighter version of it to bargain toward, no good behavior that shortens it. For McKinley, the trial is not a chance to reduce the damage. It is the whole game. There is a piece of law worth understanding before the first witness, because the whole trial turns on it. Under Iowa law, you do not have to be the person whose hands did the killing to be guilty of murder. If you take part in a crime with others, the law can hold you responsible for what your partners do to carry it out. Aiding it is enough, planning it is enough, driving the car, buying the gloves, binding the hands, any of it can be enough. That is why the defense concession that McKinley was merely present is far more dangerous than it sounds. In a case like this one, present and guilty can be the same word. The prosecutor stands to open and does not soften a word of it.
The evidence will show that the carefreeness and levity of the night turned into depravity. The evidence will show that it was at Morgan Creek Park where whatever depraved plan the defendants had came into action. The evidence will show they did not treat her as any human being would ever deserve to be treated, and that she endured unspeakable trauma. And you might want to understand why it happened. But the evidence shows you whatever reason it happened defies reason. The evidence will show it was likely done to stage what her body would look like after being attacked. And if that wasn't the reason, the evidence would only be explainable by some other depraved and senseless reason, the likes of which reasonable minds could hardly construe.
The defense does not deny the car. It does not deny the cameras or the lake. It concedes the hardest fact in the room. McKinley was there. He was at Morgan Creek Park. He was there when Melody died. But being there, the defense argues, is not the same as doing it. This case, they tell the jury, is not as simple as the state would like it to look. The state builds its motive out of secrets. McKinley was unemployed, newly moved in with his girlfriend Nikia at her grandmother's house. Nikia was pregnant. Melody, it turned out, may have been carrying a child as well. The theory is ugly and plain. He believed he had fathered both. He wanted only one, so he pulled in Dakota and Logan to erase the other. The defense pushes straight back. There is no proof McKinley ever knew Melody's secret. She had not told her own mother. She may never have known it herself. Nikia takes the stand. She speaks to the older, simpler motive: jealousy, an ultimatum, a man told to choose between 2 women. He picked her. That is the motive the state wants the jury to carry into the room. But the defense has a scalpel ready, and it goes to work on the theory. It asks Nikia about the baby, about a DNA test, about who the child's father really is. Number 10. McKinley is not the father. A test run through the state's Human Services Agency proved it, and if he knew, then the family he supposedly killed to protect was never his to protect. The neat motive develops a crack. The defense drives a wedge into it and keeps pushing. Friends of the three accused took the stand to repeat things the young men had said. The most damning came from a friend of Dakota's, a young woman named Thea Meyer. She told the jury that in the early hours after the murder, Dakota walked into her room and confessed.
So I closed my door. I said, "So what is this about? I want to go to bed. Like, what are you here for?" And he was just like, "Well, I just need to tell you something." I said, "Well, get off your chest. Tell me, like, what's going on." And he was like, "I killed someone." I said, "Who? Why? What the fuck? What for?" And he was like, "That Melody girl." And I was like, "For what? She didn't do anything to you. Who? Why would you do that? Who with? What was the reason?" He was like, "With Ken."
That he was with Ken and that he killed someone. Did he tell you what he did, what Ken did,
No.
what they may have done together?
No.
Did he offer any more details about that?
No. He just said it had to be done.
He just said it had to be done?
Yes.
With Ken. That is the phrase that matters. In her telling, Dakota did not act alone. But the defense is not finished with Thea Meyer. On cross-examination, her certainty comes apart in her hands. Pressed on the statement she gave police months earlier, she starts to doubt herself. She now thinks, she says, that Dakota told her he was alone. The one witness who placed Ken in that confession is no longer sure Ken belongs in it. It happens again. A young man named Brendan Monson testified that Logan had bragged, hours before the murder, about a plan to kill someone with Ken and Dakota. Then, under questioning, he admitted his memory is poor, and that someone had to remind him of the very detail that named McKinley at all. Another acquaintance, Trevor Wise, testified that McKinley asked him to keep quiet about the time he spent with Dakota, because the two of them got into trouble together. Then he, too, backed away. He was not feeling well. He could no longer say for sure who spoke those words in the car. 3 witnesses tied Ken to the plan. 3 witnesses, one after another, walked it back on the stand. For a case built on circumstance, that is a real crack, and the defense knew it. This is how a defense fights a circumstantial case. It cannot make the car disappear, so it goes after certainty instead. Every witness who forgets, every memory that has to be refreshed, is one more small doubt handed to the jury. Stack enough of them, and reasonable doubt starts to feel reachable. For a while, in that courtroom, it was, if the story had ended with the witnesses, McKinley might have had a chance. It did not end with the witnesses. It ended with his own phone. His phone does not get nervous under oath. It does not forget. Its search history shows shopping at Walmart for face coverings, for ski masks, for rubber gloves. Its map application shows 2 searches: Morgan Creek Park, Lily Lake. Both looked up only a couple of hours before he arranged to pick Melody up that night. He searched for where she would die and where he would leave her, before he ever pulled up to her house. Line those searches up against the clock and the intent is impossible to miss. This was not a plan born of panic at a lake. Hours before Melody left her home, before she ever sang in the back of that car, the route of her death was already sitting in a search bar. Premeditation is a legal word. That is what it looks like inside a phone. Then the photographs. One shows Dakota on a bed, posing, wearing Melody's glasses. Another shows Dakota in the passenger seat of McKinley's car. And there, tucked into his waistband, is the gun. The whole coercion story, the barrel against a temple, the hostage who had no choice, rests on this one weapon. So the state shows the jury what it actually was: a BB gun, not the instrument of a kidnapping, a prop, photographed and saved, sitting on the phone of the man who swore it was held to his head. There is one more image on that phone, and it is the one that ends the argument. A photograph of Melody, alive, bound, a strip of duct tape across her mouth. She is crying. We will not describe it beyond that. It is enough to know it existed, and that McKinley kept it, and that no version of a frightened bystander takes a picture like that and carries it home. The state rose to close. It laid the whole weight of the night before the jury, one final time.
He had a lot going on in his life at that time. He had a long-term relationship. He was getting back together. He had a new girlfriend who he was starting to part with a secret. Then he had an ultimatum. On February 17, 2024, the evidence in this case has shown that the defendant had a past with Melody Hoffman and that she wanted to have a future with him, but he didn't. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence in this case showed that the defendant, with Dakota Van Patten by his side, strangled Melody, stripped Melody, mutilated her body, and left her for dead on the shores of a chilly rural pond in Iowa County on a cold February night.
Closing arguments finish by 1 in the afternoon. By 2:30, the jury is back. That is not much time to decide the rest of a young man's life. They did not need much. The verdict is read into the record.
We'll now read the verdict of the jury. In the matter captioned State of Iowa versus McKinley Luizma, FECR 153477. Count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree. Count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of kidnapping in the first degree. Count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit a forcible felony. Signed by the foreperson.
Guilty on all 3 counts: murder in the first degree, kidnapping in the first degree, conspiracy. For McKinley Luizma, it means the sentence the law bends for no one: life in prison with no possibility of parole. He will not go on the camping trip he invented. He will not raise a child, his or anyone's. He will grow old behind a wall. Before the sentence was formal, Megan Hoffman stood to speak. She reminded McKinley of the rules she had set out the day he began dating her daughter. He had broken every one and taken responsibility for none. Then she looked at the young man who had helped kill her child, and she said what a mother says.
She always cared for you. However, you did not respect or care for her, or you wouldn't have done this or allowed this to happen. Therefore, you have broken every single one of my rules. You fucked with the wrong mama. You messed with the wrong family. I'm sorry you never felt like you fit in to our family. I now know you could never fit into a caring, loving, supportive family. I'm sorry you never experienced a family with such strong characteristics. In fact, I don't see any of your relatives here supporting you today. Maybe the issue is you, and not the rest of us.
Melody Hoffman was 20 years old. She loved animals enough to give her time to a shelter that could not pay her. Her family said she had no fear and loved everyone, that she knew no strangers. In the end, that open heart was the very thing used against her. She trusted a boy who did not deserve it. She climbed into a car because she believed she was safe. There is a hard truth under this case, and it should be said plainly. The people most easily led are often the ones most worth protecting. Melody moved through the world trusting more than most, and there are people who hunt for exactly that. Her killers did not stalk a stranger. They chose the softest, most trusting person within reach, and they used her kindness as the door. Melody's family described a young woman whose trust ran out ahead of her caution, someone who believed the best of nearly everyone she met. That is not a flaw, it is a kind of grace, but it asks something of the rest of us. It asks that we keep watch over the people who love without suspicion, because the world holds a small number who read that love as an opening. The lesson here is not that Melody trusted too much, it is that the people around the vulnerable have to be the ones who stay suspicious for them. The 3 young men who walked into that Walmart did not all face the same reckoning, and the law is the reason. McKinley and Dakota were charged with the murder itself, tried separately, each entitled to his own jury. Logan, who bought supplies but says he turned back before the killing, faced the lighter weight of willful injury and conspiracy. Same store, same afternoon, 3 different roads through one courthouse. What separated them was not how much each wanted her gone. It was how far each one walked toward doing it. Dakota Van Patten and Logan Kimpton still had their own days in court ahead of them, their trials set for the months to follow. Melody's mother said she was not done. A long road to justice, she called it, but one she was there for, all the way to the end of it. Melody will not be remembered for how she died. She will be remembered the way her mother wants her remembered, as the girl who loved everyone, in a family that loved her back, and who deserved a life far longer and far kinder than the one she was given,